My name is David Copperfield, and this is my story. I was born in a small town in England. My father died before I was born, so I lived with my mother and our servant, Peggotty. My mother was young and beautiful. She had long, golden hair and a sweet smile. Peggotty was older and had a kind heart. She took care of me when my mother was busy. Our house was small but comfortable. I was happy child until everything changed. My mother met a man named Mr. Murdstone. He seemed nice at first, but I didn't like him. Something about him made me feel afraid. Mr. Murdstone came to visit us often. He brought flowers for my mother and sweets for me. My mother smiled more when he was around, but I felt worried. One day, my mother told me she was going to marry Mr. Murdstone. I cried because I didn't want to share my mother with anyone. Peggotty tried to comfort me, but I was very sad. The wedding was small and quiet. After that, Mr. Murdstone moved into our house. He changed everything. He made new rules and spoke to my mother in a cold voice. Mr. Murdstone brought his sister, Miss Murdstone, to live with us. She was thin and mean. She had a sharp nose and cold eyes. She didn't like me at all. Mr. Murdstones made my mother very unhappy. They taught her how to run the house and how to raise me. My mother became quiet and sad. She stopped singing and rarely smiled anymore. I tried to be good, but nothing I did was right. Mr. Murdstone said I was a bad boy. He had a stick that he used to hit me when I made mistakes. I was scared all the time. Mr. Murdstone decided to send me to school. It was far from home, and I had to travel there by myself. I was only 8 years old and very frightened. School was called Salem House. It was a dark, cold building. The headmaster, Mr. Crickle, was a cruel man. He shouted at the boys and punished them for small mistakes. I made one friend at school named Tommy Traddles. He was always cheerful, even when things were bad. We helped each other with our lessons and shared our food when we were hungry. One day, I received terrible news. My mother had died while I was at school. I felt like my world had ended. I cried for days and couldn't eat or sleep. I went home for the funeral. The house felt empty without my mother's voice and laughter. Peggotty was crying too. She held me tight and we mourned together. Mr. Murdstone didn't seem sad at all. He made plans to sell the house and send me away. I realized I had no home anymore. I was completely alone in the world. Mr. Murdstone sent me to work in a factory in London. I was only 10 years old, but I had to work like a grown man. The work was hard, and the hours were long. I lived in a tiny room with a poor family. Every day, I walked to the factory and worked until dark. My hands hurt from the work, and I was always hungry. I felt miserable and forgot what it was like to be happy. But I didn't give up hope. I saved every penny I could. I dreamed of finding a better life somewhere else. I knew I had to be strong and keep trying. At the factory, I met a man named Mr. Micawber. He was tall and thin with a loud voice. He always wore a coat that was too big for him. He was kind to me and invited me to meet his family. The Micawbers were poor but happy. They had many children and lived in a small house. Mrs. Micawber was cheerful and always cooked nice meals, even when they had little money. They welcomed me like family. Mr. Micawber often said, "Something will turn up." He believed that good things would happen soon. His positive attitude helped me feel better about my own problems. I decided to run away from London. I had heard that my great aunt, Miss Betsy Trotwood, lived in Dover. I had never met her, but I hoped she might help me. I walked for days to reach Dover. My feet hurt and I was very tired. I slept outside and ate very little. People looked at me strangely because my clothes were dirty and torn. Finally, I found my aunt's house. It was small and neat with a beautiful garden. I knocked on the door, scared that she might send me away. When she opened it, I said, "I am David Copperfield. I am your nephew." Aunt Betsy was surprised to see me. She was a small woman with gray hair and bright eyes. At first, she seemed angry, but then she saw how tired and hungry I was. She gave me food and clean clothes. She listened to my story about Mr. Murdstone and the factory. Her face became angry when I told her how badly I had been treated. "You will stay here with me," she said firmly. "No one will hurt you anymore." For the first time in years, I felt safe and loved. I had found a real home at last. Aunt Betsy sent me to a good school in Canterbury. The school was completely different from Salem House. The teachers were kind and the students were friendly. I lived with Mr. Wickfield, a lawyer, and his daughter Agnes. Agnes was my age and very smart. She helped me with my studies and became my closest friend. She had a gentle manner and always knew the right thing to say. At school, I met Uriah Heep, who worked for Mr. Wickfield. He had red hair and cold eyes. He was always very polite, but something about him made me uncomfortable. He said he was humble, but I didn't trust him. I spent 3 happy years at school in Canterbury. I worked hard and became one of the best students. Agnes helped me become a better person, and I looked forward to seeing her every day. When I finished school, I had to decide what to do with my life. Aunt Betsy suggested I try different jobs to find what I liked best. I was excited but also nervous about starting my adult life. I decided to work as a lawyer like Mr. Wickfield. But first, I wanted to travel and see more of the world. I felt ready for new adventures and challenges. I moved to London to study law. The city was big and exciting, full of people and noise. I rented a small apartment and tried to live like a gentleman. In London, I met my old school friend Tommy Traddles again. He was also studying law. He spent many evenings together, talking about our dreams and plans. It was wonderful to have such a loyal friend in the big city. I also met some new people who invited me to parties and dinners. London life was fun, but sometimes I felt lonely. I missed Agnes and the quiet life in Canterbury. At a party, I met a beautiful girl named Dora Spanlow. She had curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She was sweet and gentle, but also very childish. I fell in love with her immediately. Dora's father was a lawyer, and she lived in a big house with many servants. She had a little dog that she carried everywhere. She seemed to live in a world of luxury and had never had to work or worry about money. I visited Dora as often as I could. We walked in the garden and talked about simple things. She made me feel happy and excited, but sometimes I wondered if we were right for each other. When I visited Canterbury, I noticed that Mr. Wickfield seemed worried and tired. Uriah Heep had become more important in the law office. He acted like he was Mr. Wickfield's partner, not just his employee. Agnes told me she was worried about her father. Uriah Heep had gained control of the business and was making all the decisions. He was always polite to Agnes, but she was afraid of him. I could see that Uriah Heep was not the humble man he pretended to be. He was clever and dangerous. I wanted to help the Wickfields, but I didn't know how. I married Dora in a beautiful ceremony. She looked like an angel in her white dress. We were both very young and thought love was enough to make us happy. But married life was difficult. Dora couldn't cook or manage the house. She cried when things went wrong and wanted me to solve all her problems. I realized that love was not enough to make a marriage work. We needed to understand each other better. After a year of marriage, Dora became very sick. The doctors couldn't help her. She died peacefully in my arms, telling me she was too young to be a wife. I was heartbroken and felt very alone. After Dora's death, I returned to Canterbury to comfort Agnes. I discovered that Uriah Heep had been stealing money from Mr. Wickfield's clients. He made me Mr. Wickfield sign papers that gave him control of everything. Uriah Heep had become rich and powerful through his lies and tricks. He even said he wanted to marry Agnes. The thought of this made me angry. I knew I had to expose his crimes. I worked with Tommy Traddles to gather evidence against Uriah Heep. We studied all the papers and talked to people who knew about his dishonest business practices. We confronted Uriah Heep with the evidence of his crimes. At first, he denied everything and tried to seem humble and innocent. But when he saw all the proof, he became angry and showed his true character. "I hate you all," he shouted. "You think you are better than me? I am smarter than all of you." He had to confess to stealing money and tricking Mr. Wickfield into signing false papers. The police arrested Uriah Heep and he was sent to prison. Mr. Wickfield got his business back and Agnes was free from Uriah's threats. Justice had finally been served. With Uriah Heep gone, life became peaceful again. Mr. Wickfield's health improved and he was grateful for our help. Agnes was happy to have her father back to normal. I realized that I had loved Agnes for many years, but I had been too blind to see it. She had always been there for me, through good times and bad. She was patient, kind, and wise. I decided to tell Agnes how I felt about her. I was nervous because I didn't know if she loved me the same way, but I couldn't keep my feelings secret any longer. I told Agnes that I loved her and wanted to marry her. She smiled and said she had loved me for years too. She had waited for me to realize that we were perfect for each other. We had a simple wedding with just our close friends and family. Aunt Betsy was so happy she cried. Mr. Wickfield gave Agnes away. And Tommy Traddles was my best man. It was the happiest day of my life. Agnes and I understood each other perfectly. We shared the same values and dreams. Our love was based on friendship and respect, not just emotion. Agnes and I lived happily together. We had children and raised them with love and care. I became a successful writer, telling stories about my life and the people I had met. I often thought about my past, the good times and the bad times. I learned that difficulties make us stronger and that true friends are the most important things in life. Agnes was my companion and my guide through everything. Looking back, I could see that every experience, even the painful ones I had helped me become the person I was meant to be. I was grateful for my journey and excited about the future with Agnes by my side.